Welcome to the Proven Podcast, where we don't care what you think, only care what you can prove. On this episode, we talk to Robert Glazer, someone who has built a company that has won the award 30 times as the best place to work. From Fortune to Inc. to Entrepreneur Magazine, they keep awarding it. So what's the answer? Well, it comes down to values, something I never thought. He walks us through and he even challenges my own values on this episode. It's a ride. I recommend hanging on tight and playing along. The show starts now. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Robert, I'm excited to have you on here.
Charles, thanks for having me.
So for the 4 or 5 people on the planet who actually don't know who you are, let's explain a little bit who you are, what you're doing, and a little bit about your book.
Sure. So I have that disease called serial entrepreneurship. I've started a few different businesses, the largest of which is a global partnership marketing firm called Acceleration Partners that I'm chairman of. However, as I was building that firm, we tried to do some things differently culturally and from a leadership standpoint. We won over 30 Best Places to Work awards, and I kind of started writing a lot and talking about things that we were testing and doing, and that has sort of led to a second career as an author and speaker, and a lot of focus on leadership and development. And I've really double clicked on this concept of core values, both for organizations and actually, like, more interestingly, for individuals, as a way of really understanding what is important to them. I think the world right now, you'd agree, we are very tribal, and I think people are joining teams and doing things that doesn't make sense and virtue signaling and that's all from a lack of grounding in values that would make you say, no. That's not me. Like, I agree with that, or I don't agree with that. And it's not about the teams, but it's about a consistent set of values that you can align to your decisions and the communities and things that you believe in.
So when you talk about core values, it's a hot term right now. Everyone's talking about, core values or
everyone rolls their eyes.
Yeah. It's the same, because we're used to those stupid pictures on the wall with the landscapes and like vision and all the birds flying and all of that. As someone who's done this and has been as successful you are, how would you define core values?
So I appreciate you saying that. I feel like I'm a little bit of self-deprecating lawyer because I say the same thing you. Like, look, 98% of that corporate core value stuff is BS. Enron's core values as they were going under were integrity and respect and whatever the other one was. And then the funny thing is people go to individual core values, they laugh at all the company stuff and roll their eyes. And then if you look up core value exercises, you will find tons of one-word lists. And so that's equally as garbage. So I'm with all of you. And when I talk about it, I'm like, look, throw out all of your definitions. So here's my definition of actionable core values. And I think that's kind of the difference. And they can never be one word in my book because that doesn't work. And we can talk about the 2 most popular one-word ones, which are family and integrity, and why those aren't core values. But core values are simply the non-negotiable principles that guide your behavior and decisions. Historically, people have been willing to lose their life over their values. Like, it's your red lines, if you're honest about them. So a couple qualities: they are intrinsic, not aspirational. They reflect who you are, not who you wish you were. A lot of people are trying to pick things that they want to be. No, this is like, who are you? What's your operating system? They're consistent. They show up. A core value should show up the same way in all areas of life, work, relationships, and personal decisions. And they're clarifying. They help you make better choices about who to spend time with, what work to do, where to live. It's kind of this instruction manual you weren't given at birth. And the reason for it is that they are fundamentally formed during those formative years, probably like 8 to 20. And actually, for most people, absent some dramatic change later in life or traumatic thing, you can derive all of those core values back to your childhood, because that's when your moral intuition is forming, even if your reasoning isn't sort of there yet.
So there's a lot to unpack there. Why is family integrity not considered values? And then also, if these are formed between 18 and 24,
probably 8 and 20. Yeah, 8 and 20.
8 and 20.
Yeah.
Who I was between 8 and 20 is not the same person I am now at 48.
Right.
I'm a fundamentally different human being. So I've got 2 challenges there. Like, okay, why are these not core? Which I agree with you, but also, are these permanent now with these values that you're talking about? So,
all right. So that is the number one question I get asked. So we'll go into that. Sorry. So I remember the second part. What was the first question?
The first part is, why is family integrity? Which is probably answered by the second part.
Yeah. So let's start with the second part first. So so what happens is, yes, you have different priorities, you have different decisions, but you have the same compass, whether you realize it or not. As I explained to someone, I have a find a better way and share it core value. That's why I'm on this podcast. What I thought was the better way at 20 isn't the same as what I think is the better way at almost 50. However, like that is my orienting philosophy. And when you look at people's core values, and I've done this with thousands of people, and we can play the opposite game, and I can ask you, and we can play this live, it is 99.9% are for or against. So it was either something that was really important to you and you were doubling down on, or was something that did not sit well with you and was a point of pain that you might have turned into purpose, and you determined, I will not be like that, I will not do that,
Yes.
and I will do the opposite. So it is so clear that these driving forces come back to those times. So I think when people say, no, I'm not the same or it's changed, there's usually a couple of things that have happened. One, you didn't have the right core values in the first place. You're not clear on what they are to see the consistency. Two, you might have the right core values, but you're not living it. So you're feeling pretty shitty, right? Because you're out of alignment. Or three, it's actually been a change in priorities and not a change in values. I think a lot of people aren't clear on what that value is to see the through theme. So that's A. Integrity. I've heard 10 different definitions of integrity. For some people, it's tell the truth. The others, it's live up to your ability. When I ask people, and it's one word, I don't know how to judge myself on that. And we'll talk about sort of the core validator, which is the 4-test rubric for if it's a helpful core value. So when I say to people, what does integrity mean to you? If I say like, Charles, you're like, now I get down to this root, really important thing. It means you do what you say and say what you do, or it means you always tell the truth, or it means you live up to your best. And that's the thing that actually would carry across all aspects of their life. Similarly, with family, I think family is a priority. It's not a value. It maybe wasn't at 16. Also, I'm not sure how that helps you in work, or how does family help you with your friends. When I do that same second level thing, Charles, you just told me family is a core value. Explain what family means to you. It's the second level thing where it means you've got your people's back. You always show up and you're there. Or it means commitment to a community. Those, again, are much more helpful answers to how you show up as a leader and a friend and a family member and stuff. Like, that's the real thing. I got to tell you, some people's definition of family is you have your family's back no matter what. Like, that's not mine. Like, I'm not, I don't excuse the drunk uncle at the wedding who's doing really inappropriate things and just be like, oh, that's just Uncle Harry touching, all the girls on their butts. But that's honestly, like, that's what I'm saying. That people have really different definitions of family. Some believe you defend family to the death, no matter how horrible they are to you. Right. So it's important to understand what people mean by that.
Right. I think there are placeholders when you use core values in the sense of single word things like family, integrity. What you're saying is, how do I treat family? How do I treat the people I love? How do I interact with those things? I think it sounds like that's
right. What is the thing about family that I actually value? What is my non-negotiable about family? Right. It's always showing up. It's always having people's back. It's all like, and that is the same way that you show up as a leader. It's the same way you show up as a friend, and it can give you that rubric. I've used in one of my keynotes an example of, hey, if your definition of family gets to you should always show up, as a friend, your dad's father dies and you're really busy and you're not sure if you should go to the funeral, you should go because you're going to feel horrible about yourself. I had a guy come up to me after my speech with that hypothetical answer and say, you know what? I actually think my core value is similar to that. And I missed a funeral 10 years ago. And I think about it like almost every month, right? So because if that's what you value and you go against that, you're going to feel we can talk about the inverse test, but the test of a core value is that when it's violated, you feel horrible, right? You feel bad. It's because it's the opposite of something you care about.
That's fair. It's a different definition. It's a different filter point. So when you do this and you work with clients, what are the first steps that you do when you're walking through this? Because again, in order for you to win 30 awards on the best places to work, there's obviously something that's actually working. You're doing some very core things.
This actually started. So once I figured this out, and for myself, which totally changed my life, and we built this into our leadership development, we started doing classes and teaching them how to understand their personal core values. They were confused at the offsite. They're like, wait, we're not doing the company core values? And I'm like, no, look, I think that you are going to show up if I'm trying to help build you into the best leader I can be. You are going to show up as the most authentic leader if you build your leadership style from what you truly value and care about, and you can communicate that to people. So in the book, in The Compass Within, there's a story, there's a process. It actually starts with answering 6 questions. And if we don't get to all of them, if you just go to robertglazer.com/6, they're all there with a little video. But these 6 questions are behavioral-based questions designed to pull out highs and lows from your life and help you look at, consistent themes. So I can give you a few examples. Yeah.
Let's do those 6.
We'll do all 6. All right. So in what non-work environments are you highly engaged? So, and don't say when I worked at Charles's place, like why? When I was given a team, when I was given independence, when I had clear rules, when I had ambiguity, like what is it that made it so great for you?
So when you talk about engaged, so the first question is, what work, non-work environment do you feel engaged? How would you define engaged? Like you're excited to be there?
Flow.
Okay.
Like there's no clock. Right. The stuff that we all do, like we don't care what time it is. And like we just would do it even if someone didn't pay us. Like that's the flow is probably a good proxy.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And when you've asked leaders about this and you've asked teams about this and you get this, what are the answers that you're like, no, you completely missed the mark. That's not at all what I'm asking about, but this is actually what I'm asking.
Well, what it was, not why it was, right? So because same thing. What professional roles? The next question: did you do your best work? When I worked at McDonald's is not helpful, right? But if you said, look, when I did my best work when I was out in front of people and I was building relationships and I was greeting them and like that, and when I was sitting behind a desk and just dealing with myself, that starts to get to the types of environments and situations. The third one, which I always love, is what advice and qualities do others come to you for? Like what do they come to you that you're uniquely good at solving for them? Mm-hmm. Deep one, what would you want said about you in your eulogy? And then this is the one that we can test a little bit. I can hijack the way to one of your core values, but the negative opposite questions are super interesting. So when were you disengaged in a personal or professional setting? And then here's the one we can role play a little bit. And it actually, if people watch the video, they'll see if I do this right, your facial expression, when we nail this. But I'll also ask you this one. Ready, Charles? What qualities in other people like just drive you crazy or that you struggle with?
Complete lack of situational awareness.
So right. And you said that deadpan. So no self-awareness, can't read the room, like have no sense of how they show up in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're in line at Starbucks and you and I have been in line for 8 minutes and then you get there and you're like, I wonder what I want. I should be able to pick you up and move you. Like, no, you've had 5 minutes. Pay attention. Lock in. That drives me out of my mind.
All right, so you're in the airport line now. For those of you watching on videos, I want you to watch Charles's answer, and I want you to watch his face, which usually comes before. So you're in an airport line. It's like 20 minutes long. Everyone's there and waiting quietly. Some guy walks up, like pretends to be looking the other way, and just walks into the front of the line and starts a conversation with you. Like, how do you react to that?
If some random person he would have got me off target. I'm like, what are you doing?
He's playing dumb. He's playing dumb. He's walking right to the front of the line like he doesn't see the entire line behind you.
Yeah, that would normally get me to move him because I wouldn't like what he would do to the people behind me. I'm like, all right, you get to move now. I will address this so everyone else can order. Right. Is normally what I would do in that situation. I'm like, all right, you're done.
Or you're at a cocktail party and someone is just like talking about stuff that's clearly offending everyone around them and they have zero sense of like what they're saying. What does that feel like to you? So again, those of you don't have this. You just proved my point. You don't have to say anything. Your face told me that like we are on the right track. It's a good thing, and you probably have a core value that's something like. And again, awareness like that. Like that's weak. But what about a core value like read the room? Right. That I know I have a bunch of people I know with that core value, which sounds like that. Like, how to say it, when it's not being done. You would see yourself. You wouldn't be like, dude, awareness, but you would be like to the guy in line, dude, read the room. Like, we're all in line here. Like, what makes you think you can walk up to the
Yes.
front of the line?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and see what triggered for me was I was like, "You don't get to take advantage of other people. That's
Right.
you don't get to do this. The world doesn't bend to you. Be in service to others."
Right. And you said triggered. Like, the opposite of a value is triggering. So
Mhm.
that's a good example of if you had started making that list, you would have had a bunch of things that maybe indicated the opposite of core
Right.
values.
So it's interesting because people ask this all the time, and it was this isn't mine. I'm stealing it from someone else.
Yeah.
This guy goes, "How do I become happy? I've tried my entire life. I want to be happy. This is a journey of happiness." And the guru guy looked at him, and he goes, "Is there any happiness in that pursuit?" He's like, "No." He's like, "How about this? If you want to be happy, stop doing all the shit that makes you unhappy, and therefore the only thing that will be left will be that." So it sounds like that's the approach with the opposite of the values is going through and say, "Okay, this is the stuff that triggers me." As
Yeah.
non-values, that if I remove all of those, I'm going to be left with what actually resonates with me.
Right. The opposite is true, right? You have enjoyment in helping to bring awareness or bring group to people, right? It's what you do well, is getting people to probably acknowledge the situation around them and bring them together and have awareness. So the problem with the opposite test is sometimes people can't articulate correctly what the inverse is. They want to use it as a shortcut, which is why I like going through the full process, because it helps when you have the mirrors where you're like, oh, this behavior is the opposite of this behavior.
Right.
It goes together. And by the way, I'll try this with you too. Like,
Mhm.
my guess is you grew up in a household, and someone who either stressed self-awareness or someone who was completely unaware of how their behavior impacted other people.
Close, because I've done a lot of work. And before we get into this, people,
Yeah.
therapy is the gift you give yourself. Please go to
Yeah.
therapy. It's very helpful for you.
Yeah.
For me, mine comes down to effectiveness. I value effectiveness above all else. So for me,
Yeah.
if someone's in line and they don't know what they need to order, you're being ineffective. If you're cutting in
Yeah.
line in front of all these people, I'm like, you have now violated effectiveness. I adore effectiveness. And if we're going to go with, a little Freudian here,
Yeah.
it's because I was a latchkey kid, right? I grew up and
Yeah.
I was in a single parent home. I was raised by my dad. He wasn't around a lot. So I had to very much take care of myself. Okay, what is the most effective thing I can do to make sure that A, I don't die, and B, I can play Nintendo as much as humanly possible? So everything was about efficiency.
Right.
So one of the things I adore more than anything else is efficiency. So I think that
Right.
awareness comes from me adoring efficiency.
Yeah, it's efficiency and independence. And again, you just
Mhm.
proved what I said. It tends to come from something, and we have a hard time. People, when they're doing this work, I see them choke up and they say to me, I'm like, so where's the root of that? Do you know? Because if you tie it to the root, then it's real. And they're kind of like, but I loved my parent. And I'm like, look, I
What
want you to
message-
change this sentence. You can say, I love my parents and I was
Yeah.
alone a lot as a kid and I needed to figure this out. And by the way, it's now my superpower and I'm good at it. But being
100%.
honest about where it came from is super helpful, because look, as a leader, you're going to struggle with people that are ineffective and waste time and can't figure out what to do. And the more you can tell them that, the better.
Absolutely. So versus the vision, family, integrity, now we're locking into what actually moves and what drives you. So if you've
Yeah.
got someone, and we'll just keep ripping me apart because it's easy. If you've got someone who values efficiency and
Yeah.
values people who are creative, and like, listen, I know there's a problem. I have no problem there's a problem. I love that, but you got to bring
Yeah.
me two answers to whatever the problem is.
Yeah.
If not, you don't get to work your it.
Right. So
something
that could
that-
be a different core value. You might have a core value of solve the problem or be a problem solver. Yeah. So you
Yeah,
would
mine is
communicate.
protect the time. Mine
Yeah.
is be efficient. Let's protect time.
So you
Let's not-
would want to communicate to your team, look, team, you guys know that I'm about problem solving. So I don't want you to not come to me to problems, and I'm happy to think with you. But like, when you come to me, have done the work with a couple proposed solutions. And if I disagree with those, we'll talk about it. But don't come to me just to complain about things. Like, I'm not the leader for that.
So,
And by the way, wouldn't that be empowering to you as a leader to say, look, like, you're kind of just laying your rule book out there for other people and being like,
Yeah,
here are my
I
red
actually do-
lines. Yeah.
I do this. I say, listen, you're not allowed to bring me a problem unless you bring me two solutions. If you do bring me a problem without two solutions, you get to find a new job. And I remember there was one problem. One of the companies I ran, they came in because I have the same addiction you do, or disease, which is the serial entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And they came in. There was a specific problem, and the two solutions they gave were wild. They're like, okay, well, we think we should take whatever peanut butter and put it on a flamingo. I'm like, what?
Uh,
And then they told me the problem. I was like, yeah, I got no idea either. All right, let's brainstorm it out. But they knew they had done the work beforehand, and we had that going. So I've built those in, and it's changed my org. I'm curious with the people you've worked with, and not only in your organizations and also the organizations you've worked with, what are some of the core things like that that move the ball game? And let me give you another example. Whenever I have meetings, there are no tables. Sorry, there are no chairs. It's a non-negotiable. There are no chairs. Therefore, we're having standing meetings. You
right.
have already
Because it's
printed
more
out a memo.
efficient. Yeah.
Yes, it's efficient. We've already printed out a memo. We've already been fully debriefed. We're like, okay, everybody knows what's going on. We have already had our questions in advance. Now let's hit the meeting. Let's rock and roll. Because we create this efficient, and it just speeds things up. It's something
Yeah.
I stole from Jeff Bezos.
One pizza, two
Yeah.
pizza meetings or whatever it was.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, and my guess is, you have your personal values, you have your company values. The company values are very infused by the personal values. And I think, look, everyone, to our early thing around a lot of the virtue signaling and not tied to values, people are spending way too much time trying to appeal to everyone. You should say the things kind of like someone once told me with my keynote speeches, if no one hates it, no one will love it. It can't be
100%.
it can't be a warm cup of tea. That's like sometimes when the guy who helps me draft it and I go, feels warm cup of tea, he knows that's like the worst insult, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're trying to do is signal to the world, hey, 2% of the people that would love working here, to me, it's like universities. Universities don't pretend to be something they're not. There's a real difference between a rural, small liberal arts school and a huge, University of Florida campus school. They are both great schools for the right kids. I think too many leaders and too many organizations are trying to like signal a lot of common denominator stuff rather than saying, here's what we're about, here's what I'm about. If you love this and want to join that, great. This is my leadership style. If you're not someone who likes to look for improvement efficiency and you like to drag, you're not going to like working for me. Like that's a fair thing to say.
Right. But also I think having the importance of, yes, I might have this efficiency. I'm driven by this. This is who I am. I need to bring someone else in who people can go to or can get in my face, because this isn't a dictatorship. Be able to get in my face and say, listen, all right,
Yeah.
we're missing a couple of things by doing this. Let's have some pushback. And having you be able to say, listen, this is what values to me, but my ego doesn't run the org. The org itself.
Values, they need to be in harmony. They don't need to be in unison, and they can't be in opposition. So if you have someone on your team who is the direct opposite of like if they're the opposite of efficiency, I call that a danger area. This is the same as a relationship. We can dance around that. We know Charles is going to come in with the efficiency play, and I'm the slow guy play, but it works. It balances it out. But if we have 4 more of those, one is like Charles is like spend freely, and this person is like save, and like it's going to be too much energy consumed. So we are looking for things that can exist in harmony, but it's okay if an organization has a few non-negotiables, right? And any organization you're leading is probably going to have something around efficiency or problem solving. And if you're not a problem solver, if you're a problem creator or a problem lister, you're not going to survive. And the best thing I could do is tell you that and go direct you to another place where you will be happier. I don't think there are absolutely good or bad cultures. I think it's very much like schools. I'm about to take another kid out to look at colleges. I'm trying to find the one that's the best fit. There's not an objectively good or bad. There are ones that his sister would have loved that he would hate, and vice versa.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because you brought off, University of Florida or Florida State or FSU. I played baseball growing up poorly. I had a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, and I knew the strike zone was next to the guy who kept hitting with the ball. But these guys wanted me to go, and I went up to FSU to check it out. And I knew that if I went to FSU, it wouldn't work for me, because I would just eat and be drunk and do all that. And I don't even drink, but I would just party the whole time. Like, that's not going to work. And luckily, my father saw that. He goes, no, you're going over here, because you just don't have that discipline and control there. So knowing that there's imperfection in perfection, and there's perfect things for different reasons. So when you show up in these environments and you're trying to connect with people and you're trying to walk them through this value cord, you're trying to have them find their compass, where do they lose track? Where do they completely fall off, and where do they fail?
But it's funny. I got a similar question recently. I think, and I have 2 answers to that. One, I will tell you, I spent 6 months doing this work with no resources. It was arduous. I spent years perfecting the process. I've created a book. I've created a course. I've created things, whatever. And people just want the 1 hour solution, right? So
that's
I
the
think,
failure.
I think they fail macroly in looking to cheat sheet around, like, how do I find out my most important principles in life, and not being willing to invest a little bit of time in this. The other major area of failure, as I said in the definition, is these are not aspirational. When I see people really struggling, they're trying to figure out like things that they think they want to be or should be, and they're not willing to be honest about who they are. I'll give you a great example. My find a better way value, like I'm restless, constant, never ending improvement. I generally know that I need to be more patient and present, but actually, impatience is sort of like a skill set of mine. It would be, I can want to be more patient because I think any strength overused and any value overused is a weakness, right? So
Mhm.
trying to fix anything at all time will make improvement in nothing. So I could say, look, it's a goal of mine to be a little more patient, but patience isn't a value. Saying that I
Mhm.
want patience as a value to counteract something that is a problem, that's not true. I lead with impatience. I lead with, we should do something about this problem, probably similar
Very
to
similar.
you. So
Yeah, we
that's where I see people really get into trouble, where like there are things that they think they should be saying, or they look good at marketing, but they're not truly who they are.
I don't know what that word is. I think it's Sanskrit. It's supposed to be I don't know what that is. Patient? I think that's Sanskrit. I haven't figured that word out yet. You and I are
Right.
very similar. But I think to your point, having the honesty, say, guys, patience isn't my gift.
Right.
It's not. Like I tell people all the time, if you're expecting proper grammar and spelling to come out of me, nope. It's just not. So I text people, they're like, that's not even a word. I'm like, yes, but you knew what I was trying to say.
Right.
That's not a gift I have.
But you probably
Versus
picked a partner who was patient. It's funny how the opposite thing comes into play.
ironically, yes, people who spell very, very well end up being my
Yeah.
partners because I was like, I don't know how to do that. I
Yeah.
outsource my weaknesses intentionally, consciously, or subconsciously. That's it.
Right.
Just plays the game. So when they actually invest the time, which no one does, everyone wants to take the magic
Yeah.
little pill. So perfect example: people want to lose weight. It's not complicated. Be
Yeah.
racist. If it's white, don't stick it in your mouth. That's that. Secondly, 45 minutes of walking every day. That's it. Get your
Yeah.
10,000 steps in. You're gonna lose weight.
And
It
lower
isn't
your
complicated
caloric
stuff.
intake,
Yeah,
right? I
lower your
mean,
caloric intake,
calorie deficit.
calorie deficit, walk 10,000 steps a day, do this and this, do that for the next 3 months. You are going to purge. Or regrettably, you had some family stuff where someone couldn't eat
Yeah.
for a week. That works too. Not recommended. Very, very bad.
Yeah.
Very bad. So when they go through this and they actually invest the time, what's the outcome they get from doing these tests? Because we hear this all the time. Take the Myers-Briggs, or which can be completely
Right.
manipulated, or take this one.
This to me is just the ultimate personality. So here's what they get. First, they want alignment. They're also rushing to alignment before clarity. When they really have clarity, someone sent me this list yesterday. He's like, these are my values. Like, man, this is like so me, and it's so clear. And he had that epiphany. Okay. Once you have the clarity, then it's super easy to look across those big three. My relationship, my partner, my community, my work, are these things aligned? People I'm spending time with, the people I'm doing it with, am I in a dead end relationship? One of the things around, like, I'm not trying to get people to break up, but when you think about dating sites these days, they are all, as we said before, interestingly, when you lean on married people, they are opposite on a lot of these personality tests, right? Because there's some harmony. Dating sites, like, the problem has been, it's kind of like finding your clone or your best friend. Like, oh, we both like this music, and we like to ski, and we like whatever, but we don't share values, right? We don't look at the world the same way. We don't have the same operating system, right? So that's a really important look for people, and I think it's been really clarifying. We had a leader on our team who was doing the core values years ago. I was coaching her. She actually came back to me and was excited about him, and then she had this weird 5-second sort of look on her face. And I was like, what's wrong? Are they not right? And she's like, no, they're totally right. I just realized, she was in the middle of going through a divorce, that my ex is the opposite of 3 of these. Right. And so my answer was like, that's not surprising. Like, that's hard, but it's not surprising.
And it determines a lot of our relationships, business or anywhere else. So when you're coaching someone and they finally do the time, they put the effort in, and they actually get the compass and they get the values, and it locks in, and they have these awarenesses, what is the implementation factor for there? Because again, you know me, I'm about efficiency.
Implementation
Okay,
factor is really confident decisions, big and small. Like, I'm going to walk away on this. If you looked at my life, I walked away from a lot of things, and I started doubling down on other things that were clearly aligned. When I talk about the big three, the partner, vocation, and community, the one that people keeps coming up is like community. They're like, you know what? I really overlooked my community. Like, I'm a we should all get along and share perspectives person. And I live in a just political town where everyone has a red or a blue sign. And like,
Mm.
this just isn't me. Or I'm in groups that aren't aligned with me, or I have friends who are bringing me down. So I think the community one is the one, because environments, it's really hard to display the opposite behavior that your environment's displaying, right? Willpower is a resource that's diminished easily. The best way you can maintain willpower, if I don't want to drink, then I don't want to live in Newcastle, England, where everyone goes to the pubs at 2:00 every afternoon. I want to live in Park City, Utah, or Boulder, Colorado, where there's a bike club at night and there's a hiking club and
100%.
there's a whatever. So I think the awareness of the environments that people have put themselves in has been one of the biggest outcomes of this work.
Have you seen people finish the values and go, "Oh, wow, I'm violating community. I need to physically move." Like, because the breakups happen all the time. When I work
Yeah.
with people, they happen fast. It's really simple. It's like, "Oh, this isn't my truth." Because for me, I'm used to these being your truths, but I like values as well, where people literally go, "Yeah, I need to move." And then if
I
people
had
do
I
this
had a company I was coaching, and the
uh,
leadership team, and I could see this woman on the right. I could see her epiphany that she needed to move. But remember, community means different things, right? So sometimes it is where you live and it's defined by that, but it could be what activities you're doing, where you're spending time, your religious organizations or not. So it has a few different definitions, but I definitely saw this woman. She had now I don't know if she moved, but she had I don't live in the right place epiphany kind of in this discovery process.
So I have found with the stuff that I've done that because I'm used to this being known as your truth. Once you know your truth, congratulations, you're going to get higher highs, but you're also going to get lower lows. Like, I'm sorry, it's just like I gave you awareness.
Well,
This is what
and let's
happens
not
now.
pretend the synonyms. Just making decisions based on your values or truth, they cost you something, right?
Oh,
Like in
thousand
the short,
percent.
they cost you money, they cost you friends, they cost you relationships. Like, but these decisions, they feel good in the long run. You can justify them.
Mhm.
You look better over time. The decisions that people make that are based on appeasement or virtue signaling or what's
Mm,
easy in the short term, those just get worse and worse over time,
yeah.
because we live in this 24/7 X Twitter world. And so it just seems easier to quell today's fire sometimes by doing something that we fundamentally don't believe in. And those are the decisions that age the poorest.
Right. And people do this all the time, right? They're like, "Hey, I'm gonna sacrifice my dreams for a temporary feeling right now." I'm like,
Right.
what are you doing?" Like, it's like, "I want my dopamine hit." I'm like, "Grow up." So it is what it is. With food, food's a great example. I love ice cream on levels I can't possibly tell you. However, I don't want
You know
diabetes.
that if you ate it 5 times a day, your future self would not be very happy with you.
I'd be dead.
Yeah.
Right. So I have to be able to sacrifice the now for the future. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah.
Once they have access to their values, does that become easier for them?
I think it becomes a lot easier. I'm not, the decision isn't easier, but the clarity's easier, right? If health and vitality is a core value of yours, like mine, like it's easy to make that decision. I understand why I'm doing it. Also really helps, think about, like, we have some family values, one's responsibility, one's health. And I always say, like, what my kids are older now, but when I was talking to them younger and someone wanted to skip meals, it was like, that's not healthy. And when someone wanted a fourth brownie, it was like, that's not healthy, right? And so
Ooh,
if
4 brownies is not healthy? Okay, this is a much more
tell a 16-year-old boy that. But instead
Yeah.
of saying
Tell a
that's a
40-year-old man that.
rule, what doesn't work well with kids is arbitrary rules, right? That's a rule, or we don't do that. I mean, doing it this way is the why. Like, it's not
Mhm.
just arbitrary. It's like, but that's just not a healthy choice. Like, and we
Yeah.
talk about this a lot.
Yeah, this is who you are as a human being. Are you a healthy person or you're not a healthy person? Is this
Yeah.
aligned with who you are? It's the joys of living in South Florida, which I'm not in at the moment, is Miami is very different than West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
It just I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. That just knocked out Dade County for me, really simply. So I need
Exactly.
to
You
move
don't
here.
want to put yourself in that
Right.
environment. Like, you're either going to do two things. You're going to do the opposite of what everyone's doing. You're going to go to the bar and not drink and be like, this isn't fun. Or you're going to go to the bar and drink because everyone's doing it. And you're going to be like, I really didn't want to do this. Right.
Right.
It is, willpower is consumable. And so putting yourself in environments that go against what you actually want is not
Mhm.
really helpful.
Absolutely. So when you come in and you talk about your family having values and you're teaching kids these values, I think there's a lot of people who sit back and go, okay, how do I get my kids to do this? How do I get my kids
Yeah.
who, because again, their brains aren't even fully developed until they're
Yeah.
22, 23. It's still raw dough at that point.
So
How do you
another
work with
popular question. So if you're talking about the book and this full framework and the core validator doing all of these exercises, I really like that for kids that are graduating college, sort of 22 plus. If you're I think getting kids on their individual values, like when they're younger, is harder. I think maybe you start with family values, right, and the collective identity. And I like doing those more simply, not my whole test, like Glazers are or Glazers aren't. Like I like when people like
Mhm.
Glazers tell the truth, Glazers show up, Glazers don't lie, Glazers don't whine, right? These are kind of mantras that,
Mhm.
8 to 18-year-old kids can kind of remember and understand pretty simply.
I like Glazers don't whine. Clearly, that is not part of my tribe, because my tribe, we have mastered that part. So when you when you're doing that and you're going through it, how do you hold people accountable to their values? Because we're talking about carrot versus stick.
Yeah.
How do we get someone to say, okay, we know that in your situation, the Glazers, your family, we don't lie. But someone comes up and says, does this dress make me look fat? Is the response, no, the dress is fine. Your ass makes you look fat. How do you handle those? How do you deflect them?
I've given that example before, and my I joke that my answer is very different if it's a half an hour before we were due to leave the house versus 5 minutes after we
But
were
now you're
already
lying,
late.
right?
Yeah.
So now you're yielding honesty for efficiency.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
If it's what do you think of this outlet 5 minutes after we were supposed to be in the car? It looks great. I
But
think
okay,
what's
so but now
interesting.
Glazers lie though.
Well, I didn't necessarily say that was ours.
All right, but
So
I'm saying, but in that situation, how do you do that, right? How do you handle the okay? We need to get out this door.
someone once told me it takes 10 years to know if your kids were listening to you. And so you're going to repeat a lot of things at 8, 9, 10, 11. What's going to be interesting for you is when your teenage kids do start calling you out on this stuff, right? And they say, Dad, you're doing this, or Dad, like, oh, you told us not to lie, and that seems like a lie. And it's going to at least form a discussion about values. But if you go, oh, no, that's for me, not you, then you've lost all
You've
credibility,
lost. Yeah, you're
right?
done.
All credibility. But I think this is where, like, an intelligent discussion, and one of the things, I have a mantra, there's a best version of the truth, and to me that's different than lie. The difference of a white lie is that a white lie is often incompatible with the truth. The best version of the truth could be a cliff note version of the truth that doesn't contain all of the stuff that people don't need to know at the time, but if that all comes out, it's not inconsistent. So that could be, like, again, a discussion point with my kids, and they said, actually, you lied there. I said, no, like, here's the difference. I did not tell you all of it because, first of all, it wasn't my thing to tell you, and you knew some stuff was going on. So I told you the amount that I felt appropriate with, but it was not inconsistent with the truth. So yeah, and you should admit where you screwed. And you're like, you know what? You're right. I screwed up. I actually did kind of tell a white lie there. That's the best thing you could ever, like, you're human. You're fallible. You don't
Mhm.
get it wrong all the time. And you say, look, like, I told Mom I liked it because we're always late, and, like, I can't stand being late, and I think it's rude to other people. So in that case, I felt like it was more important to be on time than it was to, like, answer that question that way. And that might not be right, and they may look at you as a hypocrite, but, like, being willing to even have that discussion and not be like, the rules apply to me and not apply to you, both in, or so many things that parenting is just good leadership. The thing that's driving me nuts, and that is the core of my next book, is that we understand and mostly agree on really good leadership qualities. When you move them into the parenting sphere, we've completely abandoned them and almost do the opposite, and don't understand. We know micromanagement is horrible and debilitating in the workplace. It is the default parenting approach these days. Yeah.
Also, parenting is leadership, not ownership. You don't own your kids. Your goal is to help guide them to be whatever they're
Right.
going to be, as long as they meet some, don't hurt people. Right? That's one of the things. Don't be mean to other people. But you don't own them. They don't belong to you. If your kid decides that it wants to be a 5-headed astronaut penguin that dances in the Sarah head, okay, that's nowhere close of what I wanted to do. But just be nice to people along the way. It's what there's this expectation.
You're basically saying what I was at a leadership event where a world-class child psychologist was speaking. They said, why did you have kids? And everyone answered, they're like, all of those reasons were about you.
Yes.
Like, and what you
1,000%.
wanted
Yeah.
and what you hoped for, like, that is not what, look, your goal is to transmit or transmute your values to your kids. It doesn't always work. Your values may not align with things that they think or feel, and it may go, for or against. But same in a company. Again, it's so interesting, the connections. As a great leader, my job is to set people up to replace me. It's not to
Yes.
create permanent employment as their manager. There are parents who's figuring out how to manage their kids through their 30s at this point. Like, it's debilitating.
Right. You talk about this all the time. And there's a guy, this guy named Mark Devine, talk to Mark about this all the time. And I asked him, I said, because if people don't know who Mark Devine is, SEAL commander.
Oh, Mark Devine. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've known Mark
yeah,
forever. He's amazing. Yeah, I've worked with
great
him.
human being.
Yeah.
And if you ask Mark, you're like, okay, where do leaders lead from? He goes, leaders lead from a point where it's never from the front. They need to know that you can be led from the front, but
Yeah.
you want your team to pull you off the line and say, listen, you're ineffective here. I need you to keep your eye doing all this other stuff because you have all this experience and all these other things going on. So it's these pivots that we do. The reason I ask this, and I bring it up, Mark, is when we come into these situations and you have your values and you have someone else in your business's values that you need them to do something, right? You're like, hey, you're in this division. I really need this division to execute on this, this, and this. However, this division is a pain in the ass. It's always HR. It's always HR. And HR is doing ABC. I will die on that rock, by the way. HR. Oh, good. So when you're in that situation and you've got two different orgs that are above, two different organizations in your org, and they have different values and they're conflicting, how do you as a leader say, okay, I know the value of Susie from HR and Billy from marketing, whatever it is. How do I lead now through this? Because it's great that I have all these values. It's wonderful awareness, but how do I work through it?
So sometime awareness points out the problems and danger areas. And I give an example in one of my speeches of years ago where there were two people arguing over a budget. It wasn't about the budget. All right. So the person, I'll say on the left, for my sort of person on the left, grew up not feeling heard. And they have this orientation of people need to be heard, right? And it's very important to them to include all perspectives was their core value. And the person on the right grew up dirt poor and was trained to like save every penny and not waste. And so what was happening in this thing is that the person on the left felt like this guy was not listening to her about, the budget. And he felt like she's just asking for more and more and more and not willing to come. So if they both knew this about themselves and they both knew this about the other person, it's not going to fix the problem, but it's really going to help knowing that, oh, wow, this is a danger area for us. And I know this about her. And so I'm going to listen really carefully to what she says. And I'm going to say, I hear you, but what I need from you to come back with is if you want more stuff, I need you to tell me the stuff that's not working and being willing to make some cuts. So like this, I just think with awareness of ourselves and others, we can navigate around some of these things. All of these personality tests and other, where they are most helpful is in interpersonal communication problems. There are just certain styles and things that are going to, butt heads on an issue. And if you understand it, it doesn't make it go perfectly, but it allows you to with some self-awareness, navigate that a little bit better.
Yeah, it lets you a little bit more prepared to be in the fight. It's like, oh, hey, we're going to go ice skating. Oh,
Yeah.
I probably should bring my ice skates then. Okay,
I'm not going to convince this person that not listening to them is okay, right? I'm just not like that. So if I want to win this battle, I need to be like, I actually really heard you there and I understand that. However, X.
Right. And it's in negotiations. We talk about this all the time. You want the other person to start. Here you go. Because they're not going to listen to anything you say because they've been practicing their spiel in their head for at least the time they've been in the room, but also probably a day or two beforehand.
Right.
They're not going to listen to anything until they off-gas their stuff. Their sponge is already full. You got to have them detox out their sponge. Okay, I heard you. This is what we're saying. You write it down, take notes, and then they're going to go to it.
My team is really clear about my better way orientation. They know I like to make things better otherwise. So I actually gave them a tool to negotiate with me, which was when I give you something new to do, you are allowed to come back with me with the entire list of things that I gave you already and tell me which one do you want me to cut or reprioritize, right? And so I'm actually giving them a tool to manage that. I'm like telling them the whole thing because I realize that is a problem. That is a downside of my orientation there.
Right, and we don't label it as good or bad. This is it.
It
I
just
love efficiency. That's who I am. If you come to me in an ineffective manner,
yeah.
my brain's gonna pop. But if you say, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna
Yeah.
take a moment to vomit this out for the next 20 minutes," I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. That's what we're doing," and I yield. It's something I learned from a couples counsel where men will sit there and free one for you guys. They'll ask, "Is this fix it time or is it listen time?" If you're a guy, 99.9999999% of the time, it's just shut the fuck up and listen. And then if they want you to
You've
fix it,
seen that it's
they
not
do.
about the nail video, right?
No, what's this one?
Oh, watch it after this call. Just Google "It's not
Okay,
about the nail." It is the ultimate parody of the conversation you're talking about.
okay,
Yeah.
got it. That works. So when we're talking about things that aren't this but are that, when you're in orgs and you come into orgs that are completely dysfunctional and they haven't understood their values,
Yeah.
how long does it take to pivot things and to implement some of these changes?
So let's be clear. I'll flip in this. I'm talking about company values, not individual values. The values of the people, because you need both. Ideally, the leaders understand their values. They're connected to values of the company. But then the company says, "Hey, look, generally these are our non-negotiables." One of the things that we do, we tend to interview all the people and ask them similar questions in a different way, but to kind of come at what do you value and what can't you stand in your colleagues, right? What are the behaviors that this organization really values? And what we always say is we're trying to solve the see-do gap. The say-do gap. There are things that the organization is saying that it is completely not doing, and so that's up to the leaders to, either change what they're saying or live that standard. But then there's all these things that the people in the organization really value, and actually, like, even though it's not said, and we're like, look, you need to elevate this to a value. Because people clearly, and oftentimes a lot of it is teamwork. They're like, the best people here help each other and read across borders and do this stuff. And the people that didn't work out and left were selfish and focused on themselves and otherwise. And we say, okay, well, you need to take whatever version of that is and elevate it. I worked with a hospital and a teaching hospital, and they had nothing about teaching. And they realized actually the best people here teach and learn at the same time. And so they elevated that to a value very clearly. Like, you need to be someone who learns and teaches to stand out here.
So you've got a book coming out and it talks about the compass and it does this. When people get this and they want to implement this, because as you already know, I love efficiency. I love things that are proven. I love things that are exceptionally tactical. When someone takes the book, is your book something that's simple to go, okay, clearly I need to know my values before I can push it out in the company. If I want to level up things, if I want to be, if I want to do this and they get the book, is this a sit down and read it all? What is the best way to implement your book? What is, again,
so the book is a parable, like Pat Lencioni actually blurb. And then it tells you at the end the framework that you've seen. You watch someone go through this process in their life. They're struggling with the big three. They get coached on their values. So people who like to watch versus be told. So hopefully it sparks that interest. You do the work. You do it for yourself. The first thing everyone's like, I want to do this for my wife. I've been in EO and YPO, and the joke is like spouses and partners and companies hate when people go to events because they come home with all this homework. And my thing is like, do it for yourself, get comfortable with it, have someone else see the changes you're making. And then if they're interested, pull them into it, right?
Yeah, I really want you to repeat that because that's super important because I've been guilty of this.
Yeah.
So we're talking about go do it yourself. Let them see the changes. And I had a client of mine. He's like, I want my son to read more. He's like, what do I do? I said, as soon as you get home, take whatever screen you have, leave it in the front part of your house, and then start reading in front of him. And she's like, cool. When do I tell him to read? I'm like, you don't. I go, within a week and a half, trust me, that kid's going to come over and he's going to start reading.
Yeah.
It's see-do type of thing.
Exactly.
But I love that you brought up. They go to the events and then, hey, honey, I learned this.
Oh, they hate these personal development events. Yeah,
they hate it.
In fact, I started bringing my wife to them because then because they didn't see the speaker, they didn't see the motive. Once they see the speaker, then they're excited to like come over and do it. Right.
So I'm just surprised you're still married since you drug your spouse with you. Hey, I'm going to go do this. I'm surprised she still talks to you.
I told her it was a fashion conference,
Okay. So you have a comfy couch is what you're saying. You have a very comfortable couch to sleep on. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
So, all right. So people go in and they start doing this and they start making the changes. How do you approach it? How do you do it? If you're a founder and you're in this thing, how do you bring it to your team? Is it something like, listen, I found this guy, Robert, he was on the podcast. I think he's great. I read his book. I bumped into him during Haagen-Dazs, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
we're gonna hire him, bring him in. Yeah, so
Yeah, right.
I in a perfect scenario, someone would do this work. They would communicate to their team, "Hey, I just actually did this work on my values. Here's what they are. I want to walk you through them." It sort of explains the things that I care about and that I get upset about. And actually, we're updating our company core values based on this clarity, and we're going to talk to you guys and get your feedback. And I think that the best leader you will be in our company is an authentic leader. And if you're really interested in, doing this work, I'd love to get you a copy of the book, and you can buy the course if you want to, but I'd love to see you do this work. And it's not that it's selfless, but I like what we're trying to do is I think you becoming the best version of yourself is better for the company, and it actually pays dividends for you outside the company as well. I write a lot in my other book around this company, this concept of capacity building. My book's Elevate, and that capacity building is this holistic benefit for an organization. If you help people get better overall, the company gets the work dividend of it, and the people will thank you and remember that you helped them become a better father, partner, sister, or husband, that you helped them get better with patience and time management and prioritization and things that are we're not different people at work. Show me anyone that like hits snooze 12 times in the morning and can't get out of bed and is really good with deadlines, when they get to work. It just doesn't happen. So to me, this is the ultimate thing that you could help your leaders do. And I'm working with some really amazing leaders and cultures where like, I want every person in my 200-person company to figure out their own personal core values. I want this unlock for them. And those people will be loyal to those leaders for decades.
I also think being open to that when you do bring these things and you do send people in your organization, that if they come back and they're like, hey, you know what? This isn't home for me, honor that as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Go. You have to expect that you're going to lose some people. And that's okay too, because in the long run, it's going to be better for your org. It's going to be better for everything that you're doing.
I 100% agree with you. And those probably weren't your highest performers. If they weren't aligned with your values and they were going against them, you were probably having problems. And the fact that they would opt out and go somewhere else in a positive way saves you a whole difficult discussion somewhere down the line. If someone opts out of your organization because they are clear they're not for your values, that is the biggest win that you could ever get from an HR standpoint, or just the whole thing.
Yeah, and I don't think people get that, because finding good people that are talented, that you've already got your systems around, because as founders, as owners, and what we do, we're like, hey, I've got this fire and I've got to let go of it because I understand that I could brute force myself to 7-8 figures maybe, but now I need other people to come in and help me out with the scaling of that. And you're like, hey, this person does this, but then now there's Susie, and Susie discovered her core values and she doesn't want to be here anymore. It's like, take the little hit. It's worth it. Take the little hit, have them do that. Can you walk through if there was something either for you or for a client that the discovery of their values just changed, it would just shatter. It's like, boom, and it blew things up, and they're like, oh wow. And on the positive and the negative, where they sit there and say, I've discovered these core values that I actually, I don't like HR because no one does. And anyway, if they discover this one
but
thing.
So it's interesting. I think the reason why you don't HR is probably buried in multiple core values. I think one, you probably don't think it's efficient.
It's not efficient.
Yeah.
It's not efficient.
Keep
and
going.
I am not politically correct in any way, shape, or form. I don't care.
Right. So you probably have a core value of say what you mean, and you feel like everyone has to do all this window dressing and say stuff that they don't mean. And right. I mean, it's visceral.
I'm as subtle as a fart in an elevator. There's just no way around it. I don't care what you identify as. I don't care about your pronoun. It's relevant to me. I'm happy for you. If you identify as a penguin, mazel tov to you. And everyone, but can we just get back to getting this shit done? Because we got shit to do. Because I just don't care. So as long as you're not affecting other human beings, whatever, just let's go. I don't care what you do with your own kibbles and bits. Just let's rock and roll. We have stuff to do. It's inefficient for me, which is why HR is like, okay, well, we need to have that. I'm like, no. If someone's being wildly inappropriate and touching people, then they don't work here anymore, because you don't get to abuse human beings. That's why my issue is with HR.
Right. I can tell when you see that sort of frustration, again, it is typically connected to multiple value violation. I call it the supervillain. Like when there's 3 or 4 core value violations in an interaction, either that interaction is a supervillain or the person or the thing is a supervillain. So for me, when I figured this out, I came back and made major changes to my company. I cut our core values in half. We kind of were growing, and I was trying to be everything to everyone, and I cut kind of relationships down. I said, look, this is who we're going to be. And if you want to be here for this, great. One of the things where it impacted we had a core value of accountability in the company. And what I was noticing as we grew was people were translating that to they're accountable for doing the inputs, but not the output, which is totally not what we meant, right? They were like, I did what I needed to do, but the thing didn't work out. So we ended up changing that core value to own it, which is like, look, you own it. You own the outcome. You own this is what we meant. Actually, we didn't mean like you did the things that you can do like that. There's a difference between no salesperson knows where they're going to sell all of their sales in a year. They own a quota, and they own that there's ambiguity with that. So we made some of those changes, and actually a lot of our early employees that were great moved on. I think they identified that I was just really clear. There was another thing too. We had rewarded inadvertently, the companies do this, all-star utility players, right? Because they were rewarded for jumping around, and they were firefighters and all-star so they would jump around from this to this and they would solve problems. And I was like, I need a gold glove third baseman, a gold glove second baseman, first baseman or woman, and I need fire preventers, right? So it was our fault because we had rewarded those behaviors. But once the company had 5 or 10 million in revenue, I didn't need a jack of all trades. And so if someone was just avoiding that, it was like, look, we are not valuing that anymore. So like maybe you need to go back to a small company where that we were just very honest about what we were looking for.
Well, I think that's what you're talking about more than anything else. We get clarity on our values, and then we have the honest conversations. And who you were when you're a under $10 million company is not the same person you're going to be when you're over 10 million. Just like who you were before you made your first million, the whole company fundamentally changes as you step up and you level up, because it's just the nature of the beast. Like I know with organizations that I run, and they will listen to this, so I apologize. They know that when it comes to HR stuff, they both talk to me. I'm like, just go do it. I will yield as long as you do. Just go. And one of my partners, his name is Daryl. They come and they're like, okay, is this a Charles question? Or is this a Daryl conversation? And they're like, it's a Daryl conversation. I'm like, cool. And then because he speaks Charles, I speak Daryl, he speaks Charles. So when we sit down, we can shortcut it, and we know those, and we have those clarities about each other.
Yeah,
there's a lot here that it isn't just a simple, hey, I'm going to listen to a podcast and I'm going to go do this, and that was enough for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that goes into this. And it's not just the book, it's also the test. If people want to track you down, if people want to connect with you and actually do this work because listen, I don't care if you don't own a business. I think this is far more valuable for you as a human being, for your partnerships, for your relationships, for your health, for your own relationship with yourself. I think this is a vastly, unbelievably important thing to do. How do people track you down? How do people connect with you? What is the best way to go forward with this?
Yeah. So look, if they want to pick up the book and you can read it in 70, 80 minutes and decide, oh yeah, like there's something in it for me. You can look up Compass Within wherever books are sold, or compass-within.com is on the site. All of my other stuff, robertglazer.com, glazer.com. That's where my newsletters are, the books, the courses, consulting if you want help with this individually or for your organization. But the book is meant to be a prompt, and I think people either read it and they're like, yeah, I want to dive into this. Everything you need is in that book. If you need more scaffolding, we're here to help.
Perfect. And then if they want to connect directly with you, is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Again, go to robertglazer.com, contact. It comes to my inbox. I reply to everyone that emails to me, either than some unsolicited sales pitch for something I don't need or use. So I have that promise, and I usually write back within 24 hours. So reach out if you have any questions.
I love that you do that. I am not that person. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this stuff. I think it'll help them pivot where they are in their lives, and it'll fundamentally create a radical change, especially as we walk into the new year, unlocking what your values are. I can't imagine doing anything else more important than this.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. And as you said, if you're setting up goals and stuff for the year, like aligning those to your values will make it so much more meaningful. So my goal is to help 1 million people figure out their core values. I hope we can get a few from this audience, but thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That's a wrap on another episode of the Proven Podcast. Clarity beats chaos. Values beat vibes. Stop reacting, start deciding. The leaders who win know who they are, what they stand for, and what they'll walk away from. Remember, if your decisions aren't anchored in real values, they're just noise pretending to be strategy.